She also appeared on Howard Stern, where he said he'd even vote for a wall over Trump. Harris replied, "I'm not a wall, but I am plastered." New York Times opinion piece says we should abandon the idea of masculinity. "I'm way ahead of you," said one man.
Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld just pulled off the unthinkable, a tag team takedown of Howard Stern so savage it sent shockwaves through both radio and late-night TV. What began as a subtle jab quickly escalated into a full-scale verbal demolition, slicing through Stern's carefully maintained image like a hot knife through old vinyl. No filters, no holding back, just two cultural heavyweights tearing down the so-called king of shock jock radio, exposing him as a fading figure desperately clinging to a world that's long since left him behind.
Say this, Dagan. I thank God for Howard Stern because he does make me feel normal by comparison. Because I'm like the Fox recluse. I don't do anything. I don't go anywhere. But he makes me look like, you know, Pete Davidson on a...
Yeah. He's a germaphobe. Like, his wife rescues cats. That's her job, apparently, her thing. But you can get toxoplasmosis.
That's
and
true.
Cryptosporidiosis.
AIDS.
And
no, you can't.
No,
but
you can't get.
No, you can't.
But you can get.
I mean, what are the chances I get that again?
Because he had the affair with Jessica Hahn,
right,
who was the secretary, the hot secretary, and Jessica Hahn wound up Sam Kinison, and they had like,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
They had a terrible breakup. They would talk shit about each other on Howard Stern.
What do you think of what Howard's become recently?
Well,
he's the only person I know who's gone, other than Penn maybe, who's gone from being red-pilled to blue-pilled.
This wasn't just a takedown, it was a full-blown spectacle, a Category 5 ego hurricane aimed straight at the few remaining strands on Howard Stern's meticulously managed head. If Stern still believed he wore the crown of edgy radio, Joe and Greg handed him a mirror and said, "Take another look, Your Majesty." The crown? Plastic. The throne? Long repossessed. It all started like a slow boil. Joe Rogan, the effortlessly dominant podcast titan who can break down quantum theory one moment and field dress an elk the next, had clearly reached his limit with Stern's latest round of self-important sermonizing.
But that's how Stern can call snacking with celebs at a fancy restaurant exhausting. Exhausting. Like he finished the overnight shift in a coal mine. Or hearing Kat talk about her pets.
Fair.
But I get it, life is tough, especially when you've been cut off from the world for 2 years in a $20 million beach house. I mean, you have no idea how tiring it is walking all the way from the wine cellar to the tennis court and back. Do I sound jealous? Yes.
Look, what he did, I mean, look, people to this day, they make fun of Howard Stern because of who he is now and the way he behaves now. That guy's the man. He was the pioneer. When he was the king of all media, and he was telling everybody to suck his dick, and the FCC was going after him, the government was fining him.
Yeah.
They were fining his businesses millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And he was out there doing wild shit on the radio.
He was putting a Klansman on with Young Thug.
Now he's woke.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. You won't want to miss more breakdowns like this. Now back to the roast. Lately, Howard Stern's been moonlighting as some kind of moral compass. Because, of course, nothing screams trust me like a guy who built his empire asking celebrities how often they wax. And Rogan? He didn't even flinch. With that trademark smirk and a voice that says, "I lift kettlebells and truth," he unleashed. No yelling, no theatrics, just a calm, surgical dismantling of Stern's newly adopted holier-than-thou act, like he was taking apart a wobbly squat rack from Walmart. It's almost laughable, the same guy who used to brag about naked strippers on live radio now scolding like a yoga mom upset over juice bar etiquette. The irony? So thick, you could sear a steak on it.
The right is insisting on free speech. They were the motherfuckers that were censoring everybody.
Right.
They wanted to lock Howard Stern up in jail.
I was on Howard Stern's show. He was great at that time, and then he went woke. And since he's gone woke, his ratings have gone down the tubes, and he sort of went anti-Trump for a couple of reasons.
They sued him. His parent company had to pay untold amounts of money. How much money did Howard Stern's company get fined? It was hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. Insane amounts of money. The government was trying to shut down a radio guy for talking shit.
He was very angry at MAGA. He said, "We've got to stop MAGA." And I'm saying, it's Make America Great Again. You know, it sort of doesn't work so well.
And now that's the left. It's just patterns, man. It's just patterns where people can justify certain behaviors because it aligns.
Howard Stern telling people how to live, Rogan muttered, like the words physically hurt to say. That's like Ozzy Osbourne giving a TED talk on pronunciation. Collision just like that, the carefully crafted illusion of Stern's self-reinvention started to unravel, not because Rogan was being cruel, but because he was being spot on. He wasn't attacking a man, he was peeling back a mask. Stern suddenly wants to be taken seriously, as some voice of reason, after 3 decades of fart soundboards and topless countdowns? That's not growth, that's wishful thinking wrapped in irony.
Yeah.
And he was out there doing wild shit on the radio.
He was putting a Klansman on with Young Thug or
and
not
now,
Young Thug.
and now he's woke.
Miami.
It's crazy.
Trick Daddy?
Trick Daddy.
Yeah, he has to be, though, because if, dude, the skeletons, that guy.
Yeah, look at this.
God hates.
Oh, and she
No, there's
escaped.
also Hollywood Squares, but yes.
Okay.
They used to bring them back all the time.
But just when you thought the takedown couldn't get any more brutal, in walked Greg Gutfeld, smirking, caffeinated, and ready to turn the wreckage into a stand-up set. He didn't tiptoe in, he kicked the door down wearing tap shoes, delivering lines with the precision of a comic who moonlights as a political hitman. Gutfeld painted Stern as a washed-up rock star who swapped leather pants for judgmental cardigans, and the visual? Flawless. Howard Stern now acts like your aunt who watched one climate change doc and won't shut up at Thanksgiving, Gutfeld quipped, barely containing his glee. And the roast didn't stop there. He compared Stern's evolution to watching a wolf decide it's more fun being a poodle, same fur, none of the bite. All bark. Instead of howling at the moon, he's now scolding it for cultural insensitivity. The crowd wasn't just laughing, they were relieved. Finally, someone had the guts to say what everyone's been thinking. Stern, once the rebel voice of a generation, has become a parody of his former self, a man so desperate for legacy points, he's rewriting his own history with a Sharpie and a Hail Mary. And Rogan? He kept twisting the knife, cool, collected, and lethal, with that signature blend of intellectual depth and barroom brawl edge.
There's nothing in Stern's previous career that could withstand this modern witch hunt that he now embraces. So this is a form of restitution. Maybe he says, you know, if I'm woke too, the crocodile will eat me last, but they always do eat. But I get it. He flipped from populist to elitist because now he's with elitists. He's living in the Hamptons. What would the Stern of now think of the Stern of before?
Rogan laid it out with surgical precision. Howard Stern didn't just lose his edge, he became the very thing he used to fight. The man who once went to war with censorship is now enforcing it. The guy who used to mock corporate overlords? He's now sipping oat milk lattes with them at executive retreats. He's gone from flipping the bird to the establishment, Rogan said, eyebrows raised, to applying for its internship. Meanwhile, Gutfeld danced through the smoldering wreckage like it was New Year's Eve, tossing verbal confetti with every punchline. He tore into how Stern now chooses guests based not on how interesting they are, but how socially acceptable they seem. It's like watching a punk rocker throw away his guitar and join a book club, Gutfeld sneered. The only thing shocking now is how boring he's become. And oh, it stung. Because behind the jokes, beneath the roast, was a truth Stern couldn't dodge: he's not edgy anymore. He didn't age into a wise rebel turned legend, he softened. And not in a comforting, elder statesman kind of way, but in the way that makes you wonder if the guy who once thrived on pushing buttons has now replaced them all with childproof safety locks. And Rogan? He didn't just throw shade, he brought receipts. Full episodes. Direct quotes. A timestamped timeline of how Stern's rebellion slowly morphed into respectability cosplay.
This week on his radio show, Howard Stern defended wokeism, saying it's a compliment when someone calls him woke. Listen.
If woke means I can't get behind Trump, which is what I think it means, or that I support people who want to be transgender, or I'm for the vaccine, well, dude, call me woke as you want. I'm not for stupidity, but I am woke, motherfucker, and I love it.
Oh dear, he swore. He swore that'll win over the woke.
Contradictions on top of contradictions, Rogan laid them out with clinical precision. 1 minute, Stern's grilling Pamela Anderson about breast implants on live radio. The next, he's lecturing Joe Rogan about platform responsibility. The whiplash? Unreal. Like watching Evel Knievel suddenly become a school crossing guard overnight. And just when Stern loyalists were silently begging for someone, anyone, to throw him a lifeline, Gutfeld returned for the encore, swinging harder and sharper. This time, he came armed with metaphors. Howard Stern is like an aging magician pulling politically correct rabbits out of a hat no one asked for, he chuckled. You remember when his tricks were dangerous. Now it's just balloon animals and safe spaces. The room shook, but not with hate. And that's what made the takedown so potent. Rogan and Gutfeld weren't ranting. They weren't frothing at the mouth or rage-baiting for views. This was surgical mockery, sharp, clean, and devastating. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Like watching a once great artist refuse to admit they painted themselves into a beige corner. They even flirted with the idea of a Stern comeback, but only through razor-edged sarcasm. Rogan joked that all Stern needs is one more fart button and a stray stripper pull, and maybe, just maybe, he'd remember who he used to be. Gutfeld? He offered to lend Howard a spine, if he ever finds the urge to challenge power again instead of politely sipping tea with it.
Even when I watch them on Saturday Night Live with the where they have Maya Rudolph playing you, I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of.
Oh my God.
There's too much at stake. I believe the entire future of this country right now, I mean, as America, land of the free, home of the brave, I think it's literally on the line.
So a guy who's supposed to be funny for a living now claims her candidacy is too important to joke about. This is a guy who once joked right after the Columbine massacre that the killers should have raped the students before killing them. Not that I like that Stern, but this pendulum swing from saying the most tasteless thing in the universe to putting your balls in a Tic Tac container. You gotta wonder what's going on here. It's striking that the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate.
The real mic drop moment came when Rogan calmly said, Howard doesn't fight the system anymore, he sends it holiday cards. The crowd erupted. Stern fans? Silent. And that silence said everything. What Joe and Greg pulled off wasn't just comedy, it was an exorcism. They dragged out the ghost of Howard Stern's former self and forced it to sit center stage, while his current incarnation squirmed beneath the spotlight. It wasn't cruel, it was cathartic. Because deep down, people missed the old Stern. The boundary pusher. The disruptor. The guy who said the things no one else dared to. By the time they were done, the audience wasn't just laughing, they were nodding. Because in a world drowning in safe takes and virtue-soaked soundbites, there's something refreshingly brutal about two guys saying what everyone else is thinking but too afraid to voice, especially when it's aimed at a man who once thrived on doing exactly that. Howard Stern didn't just get roasted, he got unearthed. His contradictions. His moral contortions. His desperate rebranding. All of it laid bare in a comedic autopsy, masterfully performed by two pros who know their way around a mic, and a legacy.